I've got another one here from a series of songs that I wrote a few years ago about the Mississippi River. This one's based on a true story. A man named James Ford that lived in southern Illinois and Kentucky, I think he was from. Late 1700s, early 1800s. On the surface, he was an upstanding member of society. He was a local sheriff. He owned a bunch of land. He also, probably most notably, owned a ferry crossing on the Ohio River. That was the way to cross the Ohio River at the time. He built a bunch of roads, and all those roads, surprisingly enough, led to his ferry crossings. Quite the businessman there, but turns out he wasn't such a nice guy after all. I call this one the Ballad of James Ford. James Ford, he was 6 feet tall with arms like Hercules, belly full of whiskey and a voice that shook the trees. He was a businessman, he owned the land and ran the lynching court. He'd pardon his own and rival gangs, he'd cut their lives short. If your gambling luck run out, you better make good on that loan, or you'll end up in the river with a belly full of stone. Ford's Ferry gang robbed and stole from Shawnee to Cairo. Ford's Ferry was the safest way to cross the Ohio. If you were flush, they'd steal your horse and relieve you of your gold. If you're lucky, the next day you'd be walking down the road. For a maid in distress, you might steer your boat ashore. Find yourself at Cave-In Rock in the outlaw's front door. Well, as mean as they were, oh yeah, they'd tear your boat apart. Still they'd keep you safe from Big and Little Harp. Ford's Ferry gang robbed and stole from Shawnee to Cairo. Ford's Ferry was the safest way to cross that old owl. Vincent Simpson was the ferryman till the water got too high. He told the regulators that he would testify. When Ford, he found out about Vincent's ugly sin, he laid him in that field behind the old Potts Inn. Well, the regulators saddled up and they rode hard all day till they came upon Ford alone on his highway. Mr. Ford, oh, the jig is up, we all heard your stories. Now you gotta spin them lines before a grand jury. Ford's Ferry gang robbed and stole from Shawnee to Cairo. Ford's Ferry was the safest way to cross the Ohio. On a moonless night they stopped to rest at an old log cabin inn, and after supper time they let that fire go dim. Mr. Ford, I got this letter from my dear sick ma back east. Won't you read it to me so I can find some peace? Well, they brought a candle over so old James Ford could see, but the words upon that letter would mark the end of his ferry. The only light that shone that night was on James Ford's face, till they lit that cabin up like it was Independence Day. Ford's Ferry gang robbed and stole from Shawnee to Cairo. Ford's Ferry was the safest way to cross the Ohio. No man was ever tried for the murder of James Ford. I guess Folks figured he got what he deserved. No one attended his funeral, the pallbearers were slaves. Only his wife and daughter stood beside him at his grave. Lightning crashed, the coffin slipped and planted in the dirt. Folks say he's the only man ever went to hell head first. Fort's Ferry gang robbed and stole from Shawnee to Cairo. Fort's Ferry